Welcome, everybody, to the educational web series offered by Matrix Integrated Solutions. We're on episode 19. And one of the questions that we get, a topic that comes up frequently is talking about KPIs, key performance indicators, for people that don't know that acronym, and kind of their practical use and what it is we can do to report and get as much information out of the data that we have in the system. That being said, we have a special guest today, Dave Cox. I'll let Larry introduce Dave and talk through his resume and kind of introduce us to Dave's background.
Yes, I'm blessed to have Dave as my older brother. We've kind of followed each other through the business environment for a few decades. Out as a CPA in public accounting back when it was the big eight. I don't know how many there are, but not that many left anymore. But he's had a variety of different roles within organizations, such as the limited restaurant equippers and the basket company. I forget the name of it, but quite a bit of experience in terms of operations as well as measurement tools. So, Dave and I had a number of conversations, regarding KPIs and how important they can be for organizations. And someone went in our conversations today, how about sharing a little bit about your experience with our client base, since you've had so many broad experiences with it. So at this point, I'll bring Dave in and we'll kind of have a conversation. So maybe share some information that our clients might find beneficial.
Terrific. Thank you for the introduction. Glad to do it.
Dave. So it's kind of a simple guide to our discovery of KPIs and reporting and dashboards and different avenues of getting the most out of your data. We're going to just ask some simple questions and have a discussion around that. So the first question is a pretty simplistic one, which is, what are KPIs and why are they important? So bottom line is just, what's the simplest definition of the KPI in your mind, Dave and Larry?
Sure. I'll start. So picture, if you will, driving your car with no dashboard. You wouldn't know when your tires were low. You wouldn't know when you're almost out of gas. Although my wife never pays any attention until she's down to 3 miles, and then she calls me and I have to go fill it. So a dashboard in a car is a vital piece of driving, because you know what's going on. You're not going too fast. You're not going too slow. You know how many miles you got. I mean, we've all driven cars. So in its most simplistic form, KPIs are to a business what a dashboard is to a car. It lets you know what's happening and helps you anticipate what's going to happen so you can do something about it. The other classic example, since it's baseball season, is I don't know how many of you are from Northeast Ohio, Western PA, but you've probably been or even heard of the Cleveland Indians, Guardians, whatever. Picture a baseball game with no scoreboard. As a fan, you wouldn't remember necessarily what the score is. You wouldn't remember who was pitching. You wouldn't know who's coming up to the plate. And in the dugout, it's even more important than the scoreboard, right? These guys are tracking everything down to the gnat's eyelash so that they can win the game. I know this because my son's buddy is the analytical guru for the Tampa Bay Rays. This is what he does, just like the movie Moneyball. If you have any interest at all in KPIs and what they mean to a team or a business, watch the movie if you haven't seen it already, because it transformed the Oakland A's, and KPIs will transform your business in a whole host of different ways. They do lots of things for you. They give you visibility into things you may or may not know are issues. In my experience, I've got 5 facilities, I think, 4 facilities, and people in all of them. Well, I can't be in 4 facilities at once. But with KPIs, which I have tactically on a daily basis, I can find out exactly what's happening in every facility by person if I choose to. Or I can summarize and do it by week, by month, but whatever makes the most sense, right? But it gives me eyes and ears in places that I'm not. So they are really, really helpful. hopefully that's a good starting point in terms of what they're for.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, Dave, is that give it to you at a point in time that it's still actionable.
Yes.
You can still do something about it, as opposed to waiting till after in your analysis using baseball, you don't wait till after the game to say we should have scored more runs and we should have had more hitters in the lineup than fielders, something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I had an instant, it happens every week on something, but last Friday, right about now, my teams started blowing up, and it's like, wait a minute, we're not selling anything. Okay, I've got a sales force in my group also. I've got sales and logistics, and the answer was simple. Our connectivity with our co-location facility went down, and we couldn't talk to customers. Now, I knew that almost in real time, and basically was jumping up and down with my friends in IT saying, what the heck? We can't sell anything if we can't talk on the telephone. But I knew it almost instantaneously rather than wait until Monday morning and go, what the hell happened to Friday sales? So it was actionable. Now they had detected it on their own, fortunately, but had they not detected it, they would have gotten my boot up their rear end, right? Saying, it's like, look, I can't conduct a business with my telephone's not working. So it happens every week on something. It also happens to the upside. What do I mean by that, right? So last month, it caught my attention that one of my salespeople had a 76% conversion rate, which is one of our KPIs. All conversion rate is that she takes X number of calls and she closes Y number of orders, right? Divide the two and there's your number. Well, Anna did a terrific job that month. She was like 25 points above our average, right? We normally do about 50. She was at 76. So one, I got to reach out to her and say, wow, terrific month. Thank you, which is a big deal for anybody, let alone a salesperson. They like positive feedback when you catch them doing something good. And two, I haven't had the conversation yet, but I'm going to be like, what did you do differently than everybody else? So I can share her best practice with the rest of the team, because she figured something out or she got lucky. I would bet she figured something out. So they work for you in a whole host of different ways. But Larry's right. Looking out over the horizon is a lot easier if you've got real-time information that you can access right now, as opposed to get a report from accounting 3 weeks after the books close. Right? Big difference between the two. I know what's happening in my org. Sometimes I can do something about it. Sometimes I cannot. Usually I can get out ahead of it before the CFO is even yelling at me yet. He doesn't yell, but you see the point. It's early visibility.
You don't want them to yell. That's a good idea. So that brings up a good second question, which is, what are the most critical ones, KPIs that you're seeing in the business for yourself? You've talked about some other examples in the baseball and the car analogy, but are there some critical ones out there besides cash in the bank, which is cash is king still? But what are some of the critical KPIs that you're looking at daily?
Absolutely. So I'll start at the beginning. Where did I learn how to do this, right? So I worked for L Brands, formerly known as The Limited, back early in my career. And at the time, it was the best specialty retailer in the world. And I was a young guy. I was in my 20s. I didn't know anything about anything. But before the phrase KPIs had even been invented, they already had them. So we had, when I started, about 350 stores nationwide. You couldn't visit all of them. You couldn't see all of them, but that's where all the business happened, right? So we had at our fingertips, even then with 80s systems, exactly what sales dollars were for the previous day, what the average dollar sale was, what the units per transaction was, who sold what by hour over the course of the day in the store. Well, that was hugely helpful for us, because we would, again, find people doing something good or creative that we could knock off and do in other places. But more importantly, we could also find stores that were struggling and try to figure out why. But you can't hop on an airplane and visit 350 stores. So that's how I get my early education in it. You know, fast forward to now, I've been using it in every business. So logistics, I know how accurate our picking is. I can see that on a daily basis if I choose to, typically looking on a weekly basis. Okay, exactly how many orders am I getting 100% perfect, and is my accuracy getting better, worse, or holding the same? I know how many damages I shipped out. Okay, again, better, worse, the same, right? Because whenever you ship out something, rides around a truck and gets damaged en route, the customer's not very happy. I can tell whether that's getting better or worse. I know what my productivity is by day, if I choose to, or by week, which tells me, are they working hard or aren't they? They always are, because they're really good people. You know, I know what my capacity is. I know how much inventory I have in my facility. And I know when it's reaching the danger point of, uh-oh, I'm running out of room, right? It's because I can see it. I know what I've shipped. I know what my cost per shipment is. I know what my ground cost per box is. We ship small stuff like, plates and silverware, and we also ship refrigerators. But it ties into another thing that we found very useful here, and that is, call it initiative management. This has saved us buku money over the course of the last, we kicked it off last August, I think. It's a certain machine that cuts a box to the precise size of what's going in the box. Okay, because my orders are all over the place in terms of what are going into them. Well, what's that mean? That means I save money with FedEx every time I do it because the box fits the product exactly. And it's one I look at every week because it's brand new, but it's saving us big bucks. And we're talking about $4 per box. And a company our size, $4 a box is a lot of money versus where we were a year ago. So it allows you to do initiatives. On the sales side of the equation, which is my other part of my life, I know exactly how many calls I had yesterday, inbound calls from customers. I know exactly how many were abandoned. In other words, we couldn't get to them. Important metric, right? If I don't have enough people to answer the phone, somebody might go somewhere else. I know what my average talk time is. And you say, why would you care about that? Well, if the talk time gets too long, there's probably something wrong, or we're doing something new that makes a lot of sense. Like we've added extended warranties. It added about 40 seconds to my average call. Very helpful. I know what my conversion rate is. If I get, in the course of a week, 1,000 calls, for example, and nobody buys anything, well, I've got big problems. Okay. It's never worked out that way, but I would. I know what my margin, my order margin is per hour. So it's a whole series of financial metrics and operational metrics, right? That's the key thing about KPIs. They can be stuff right out of your financial statements, your quick ratio or something like that. But for an operator like me, it helps me understand what's going on in my business every day. And I'm not making this up, get up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, crack open the laptop, and I look at yesterday's numbers every day. And it doesn't take me long either. And I don't have to trips around all my facilities to find out what's going on. So lots of companies use them. If you don't use them, start using them, because you will find out things that you don't necessarily know, and you'll see trends in your business a lot earlier than waiting until after your accountants have closed your financial statements.
Very good.
Are you
Yeah.
doing anything with KPIs around alerts? Are they sending you alerts, or is it more like a newspaper for you?
It's both. So I get alerts on certain things. I get calculations from reports. Some of it's on demand. So for example, I'm about to have a big week this week. I've got a number in mind, and talking to my sales folks, it's like, boy, just with a little bit more push, we can get to this number, which would be very, very successful. So I can look that up in real time, or I get the reports pushed to me. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, and you got to pick off. I would also mention, you don't want 1,700 KPIs, because you'll never get to reading all of them. You got to boil it down to the few that drive the many, that will point you towards an opportunity or a problem, and then you can dig a little bit deeper. This is all like an early warning system, right? It's like something bad is happening. I better find out what before it really disrupts the business. Good question.
Great transition to my next question, which is there a specific KPI that's really come to bear some ROI in it on a regular basis, or one that's really kind of saved your hide?
Yeah, there's a new one that really only kicked this off, let's see, 2 months ago. There was our ecom guy, who's pretty smart, said, gee whiz, I think we can do business via web chat. And we had a discussion on it. It's like, he's a smart guy, he's done it in other places. So, we threw a number out there and said, yeah, we'll try it. I'll devote a person to it and we'll see what happens. Well, much to my surprise, it makes logical sense. It grossly exceeded my expectations. So we planned on doing, rounded numbers, $1 million for the year. Well, my one-person team did 300,000 by herself last month.
Oh, awesome.
It's like, wow, that's a big number. And it's led to, we've hired 2 more people in the last, one starts here in a couple weeks. The other one started 3 or 4 weeks ago, because we're not getting to all of them. This is a shift in how people do commerce, right? My kids are grown now. I guarantee you they all do web chats when they're buying things online. I tend not to. So I had a mental internal bias against it. I said, yeah, we'll do some volume, but it's not going to be big. I was dead wrong. Dead wrong, and delighted to do so. So every week I find out, okay, how many chats did we do? How much volume did we do in them? What's the average transaction size? All that stuff. And this is all, as of the 1st of December, I hadn't even conceived of it. Now we're doing it, we're expanding it, and it's making us money.
Excellent. And then how did you marry together the information from the chat window? Is it just monitoring the number of chats coming into the sales of that person because that person's dedicated to it?
Yeah. Simplistically, that's exactly how we did it, because we could get more sophisticated in it. And another caution I would have for you, because I've seen this over and over again in my career, is that there's a tendency to say, well, when I can get my IT guys to spend 5,000 hours in 2 years on a project, then I'll have what I need. You can start simplistically with this stuff. So what we did was exactly what you said. I've got a count of the number of chats we do. We get a Snapchat's the name of the software. I can see the individual chats if I choose to. Certainly my managers look at them, and I can see what's happening in the chat. And then I can read it through my sales systems to know how much sales that we did. So it was kind of a bolting together of several different things that software can do for you. A lot of times, in my experience, everybody needs great software. Okay. A lot of people hesitate to do something because they don't have the great software yet. Play around with it manually. If you keep it to a few KPIs and find out that it's working for you, great. Then you bring in, Matrix to help you design something to automate it, make it quicker and easier for you. But if you don't know what you need or want, or what's going to be helpful for you, how's anybody going to program it? It really was a ready, fire, aim kind of thing. I just promoted the person less than 60 days ago. I had an update with her this morning, and it's really working. I mean, the math is fabulous.
That's a good place to be wrong.
Yeah, very good place to be wrong, because we all have preconceived notions. Everybody. It's like, okay, let's try it and see if something good happens. Well, this one, something really good happened.
That's another good segue into our last question, which is the tools that you use currently. Certainly Excel is probably in there. It's a common tool for everybody. And that example that you gave us around the chat window, I'm sure when that started off, and it may still be manual, the number of chats to the revenue associated might be coming from 2 different systems. Are you marrying that together in a tool like Excel? What are the tools that you use currently? Or are you using something more sophisticated like a Tableau or data shelf, or what's the tool?
No, I wish I had Tableau, which I hear good things about. It will evolve to getting something that marries everything together in one place. We've got a data warehouse, as many companies do. I can do it that way. That way I'll have the data feeding from multiple systems to a data warehouse. You can run Power BI on it, or SSRS, although SSRS is starting to go away. Power BI seems to be the thing that the trend of the future. So at the moment, some things are pushed to me automatically, not everything. And some of them requires a little bit of Excel work, but not a lot. I went through the entire month of April for all my business units on earlier this week, I think, late last week. It took me maybe an hour and a half, but now I know exactly what's going on in every business unit. And that's on the monthly basis, right? Again, I look at these things daily, but I also kind of tear the business apart even before I get the financial statements to know where the trouble spots are, if there are any. So when I get the financial statements, I already know what the answer is to the question that inevitably the owner and or the CFO will ask, because I already knew about it. We could have better tools, but we're not that big of a company, right? So small companies start out with whatever they start out with, the back of an envelope, or then they move to QuickBooks, and then they move, and so on and so on. And you guys at Matrix, I mean, this is what you do, right? It's basically sell software that enables running businesses quickly and efficiently. But you don't necessarily get ahead of it as much as you would like, at least not in my experience. And Excel works. Everybody understands how to use it. So to get you started, Excel will work just fine.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Figure out what the KPI is, do it manually, figure out that it's going to be an important measurement, and then if it starts to take you too long to coordinate it, find the tool that will help you.
Yes, that's it in a nutshell. Because you don't know what you don't know. If I would have waited to have systems to support the chat thing, I wouldn't have done it yet. And I'd be out way too much money. I'll be out $300K for last month. So, you got to start someplace.
Got it. I guess, Larry, any questions from you and any input so far?
No, I think Dave's done a marvelous job of covering it and illustrating some of the specific examples that he's using, which is what we had hoped to talk about. So
a few other things that might be helpful. I'm going off script, which you guys know me intentionally. Sometimes I go off script. So sometimes people are afraid of metrics and KPIs. Done well, it becomes fun. Okay. We did a thing last week. We wanted to sell more extended warranties. So we said, okay, here's the challenge, right? Whoever sells the most for the last 2 weeks of the month gets a $100 gift card. Doubled it in a week, and it's only a lousy $100 gift card. But I had the KPIs in place to know exactly who was selling what on extended warranties, and we've made a game out of it, which makes it fun. And they learn from each other and so on. It's not it can be perceived as done poorly as Big Brother is watching. That's not the point. Big Brother wants to know how we can do things better, because we all have to get better, whether it's in sales or say Big Brother, the leadership of the business. We all want to do more sales. We all want to make more money. This is how you figure it out. It's not an intimidation thing. So my sales group really, we started this about 4 years ago, and they didn't have any KPIs, none. We put them in place. We explain to them what they're for. We're using them as a tool to help you get better, and basically reward you if you do well. So they're not intimidating to my sales team at all. And my ops teams are used to them because we've done them for 8 years now. So they get it. But don't let I don't want to be measured because you might catch me doing something bad deter you, because that's not the point. You will find things that you don't like in your KPIs on performance. But more often than not, you're going to find somebody doing something good. And then you say, I need to train everybody else how to do this the same way. Last point, They help you immensely in terms of planning your business for the next month, next quarter, next year, because you've got some basis to figure out what it means, right? So I had to re-roll a forecast earlier this week for the balance of the year. Well, guess what? You know, my chat volume number went up because now I know the chat volume is going to work, and I put a number to it, and I was able to put some guts behind my forecast. You know, by the time we get to planning season, we're on 12/31 calendar year end. I already know what's transpired, and I'll know what we can do better still next year, versus going, oh, you know, the boss wants to get a 12% increase. How am I going to do that? I already know the answer before I get the question. And it makes planning a whole bunch easier. So we all have to do budgets too, but you can make them hard, you can make them easy. And breaking it down by KPIs helps a lot, because you know which dials to spin. If you're behind on this thing, you know, you might be able to spin the dial on that thing to make up for it, that type of thing. So I guess in closure, it will help you manage your current business, think ahead, and plan your next business plan, next quarter, next year, whatever it is, to maximize your profitability.
Yeah, and Dave's very good at planning in the business. Sometimes the planning on the fishing trips leaves a little to be desired.
Yes, that's true too.
Oh, but no, all insightful information, Dave, and we really appreciate it. Jeremy, you have anything you want to add or wrap up on this?
No, I think other than if you have any questions, feel free to call us, and you can get a hold of myself or Nate to further the discussion around the KPI tools that are available for Sage 100. I think Dave brought up some good points. It's not necessarily the tool that is going to drive the boat. You need to drive the boat and then buy the better prop when you figure out that it's not working properly. So however we can help you determine how to get the data, whether that's automated or manual, we can tell you how we can help. And they now are there to coordinate with Larry and Dave and Sue to get to that data if we need to. So that being said, we'll wrap up, and really appreciate your time. I know it's been a bit of a scheduling hectic schedule to get this on the docket. So really appreciate your time and efforts today, Dave. And Larry, thanks for setting this up.
Okay,
Glad
very
to
good.
do it.
Okay,
All
thanks,
right,
guys.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.